So there's three constants in life: death, taxes, and change. Hey, welcome to another Rare Leaders Conversation with myself, Tony Jalen, and my wonderful better half, significant other, the CEO of our home, Danielle. Hi, Danielle. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you guys for all who are watching us live on either YouTube, Twitter, or in the Rare Leaders group. Today we're going to talk about change. Um, the fact is, change happens. It's automatic, but progress is not. And we've gone through a lot of changes over the years, haven't we?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A- And today we're going to talk about, some of the lessons that we learned when it comes to change in terms of like 6 valuable steps that we've taken to work through that change. And, change isn't always easy. I think a lot of us have resistance to change. Why do you think that is?
Makes us uncomfortable with the unknown of what's gonna come from the changes.
hmm Yeah, that unknown thing is like, ooh, is this going to work out? It's not going to work out. And I think sometimes, at least myself, the things that have caused me for not to change is that I think too much about what is maybe could go wrong or what could go right sometimes. I mean, a little background on us for those guys who are watching. We actually in Wisconsin. We originally started our lives together in North Dakota. We were born and raised in North Dakota, and we moved from little North Dakota to Wisconsin. Now, that might not be seem like a big move for you, but the town we lived in was what 50, 60,000 people.
Yeah, about.
And then we moved to a town that area was like 2 million. So
Mhm.
there was a big change with us on that. And, when we were moving, this was back in 2012, it's 2022 now, so 10 years ago. I remember, going down that road in that U-Haul thinking, wow, like, we're really doing this. Like, I I thought about I'd want to move out of North Dakota, but and I want to give credit to Danielle because she's the one who said when I got a job offer, she's like, you know what, you need to take it, even though it took me a month to say yes. Um, 2020, 2010, sorry, 12 years now. 12 years now we've been here now. Oh gosh, I keep on. See, I think I need more coffee yet this today, even though it's later in the day. but but that was a big leap. That was a big leap of faith. And one of the things I learned in terms of working through change is have a good support network. Because I think it was a tough decision. One, we're leaving family and friends and moving to an area that we didn't know anyone at all. I mean, you were excited about I mean, I think you were excited about change because you told me to make the change. I mean, what was your thought process when we were initially made that move? It was close to 12 years ago.
Well, I mean, we had been doing apartment living and managing for almost 10 years by the time we made the decision. So I think one, it was something new and different. Was I excited about the idea? Not really. Um, because it
Just
meant being further away from family.
mhm.
But I think given our options of where we were moving, it was probably the best of the choices that we were given.
Yeah, and I think that's fascinating you said that because you were the one who said do it. But so what process did you take to say, hey, let's for us to do it then? In back in your mind, because of course we know we talked about it as a family that if we're going to make this move, you know.
Just for me, it was just the options that we were given, like where we were at in our lives, and the opportunities and what how we were living. It was if we were going to do it, this was probably the best time to do it because Ezekiel was still young. Um, and I mean, it wasn't that I was comfortable with it at all. It was a big something that I just had to sit through and ponder on and encourage you to continue to grow in your role.
hmm I think that's one of the valuable steps we learn in working through change is that you got to be open to creating new relationships and seizing new opportunities. If you're always suspicious of like meeting new people, opportunities, or using past experiences to judge new opportunities, you'll end up missing out on the good things that they have to offer. I mean, it was a scary move for us. But yeah, I believe it was one of the best moves we could have made for ourselves. And another thing when it comes to like that move, then, um, not everyone was on the page of, hey, go do it. Right? I think sometimes when we change, it forces other people to have to change. And I went through different things in terms of, family and friends, like not wanting to be moved, actually upset that I was making that change. Like, when you've gone through changes, Danielle, how do you navigate that portion of it? Because that's another step in working through change.
Well, I think a lot of it is understanding like where they're coming from and understanding like it is a change for them as well. But also if they're that upset with you about it, then are they truly like supportive of you and your friend? Obviously family is a little bit different, and family, as much as it may hurt and not like in immediate, like in the long term, I think they're the probably going to be the most supportive of you in making those changes.
hmm I think sometimes the reason why people are not so excited about change is that they view it as an inconvenience for them. And that's where the next step is. We talk about number one, being open to creating new relationships and seizing new opportunities. Number two, avoid the people who are constantly moaning, complaining about it, and resist the temptation to spend time complaining or doubting about yourself. And I think the next one would be find out the facts. And find out the facts. Um, I think one of the reasons why people resist change is because they get caught in rumors or non-factual information to make the decision to make that change, right? Because when we looked at our facts, we're like, okay, yeah, there's going to be possibly a backwards in income the first year making this change because the area that we were moving to wasn't performing that well. Bless you. But like you said, the opportunity, the market share opportunity was big, a lot bigger than Grand Forks, North Dakota. And we could easily stay in that comfort zone, but I think sometimes we sacrifice the great life for the good life. And I'm really super excited that we made the move. Um, I think another thing in terms of making that change, we got to recognize that the change is inevitable. Nothing is going to stay the same forever. Right. I mean, in reality, I believe, in fact, if things stayed the same forever, you'd actually get very bored of it if you did. So, like, why figuring out what you can control, how much control, helps a person in working through change?
Well, I think, you can the biggest things that you can control are like your attitude and outlook on it. If you're dreading it, and I think it goes for anything, whether it's a change in company policy, it's a change in lifestyle, if it's a change in um, just anything, like, there's a reason that it's changing, and just understanding and taking a look at that, like why is it changing? Like, are there new systems that are being implemented? Is it a change in the industry that's happening? Like, when we looked at moving here, even with the apartments, things were changing. Buildings were being sold, and change of management was happening. There were changes that also influenced those that part of our life, where we had to look at, like, what is our future going to look like if we continue like whatever. So I think it's just really taking a look at like all the parts of what's happening.
hmm And focusing, like you said, what you can control. Like, you know, with my corporate role, I remember when we were acquired by a larger company, everyone and the mother were scared as there are going to be layoffs, which happen when companies merge, when there's acquiring. What else is going to happen? And like, it's our values going to change? And I think so many times, when those changes happen, like you said, sometimes we need to understand the reasons why, And I don't know about you, but sometimes you gotta be okay with it. You gotta sometimes trust that there's a reason for it. And when we went through our changes corporately, I mean, those are things that needed to happen in order for us to not only survive but thrive as an organization. And it was just smart business decisions, which looking back at now, at first I was like, oh my gosh, really? Like, but I'm like, I had to like just trust that, okay, this is for a greater good. This is for a reason that I may not understand and don't really have to understand. So, in terms of working through change, figuring out how much you can control and giving that your energy. Um, and this is one of the next things when it comes to it is like celebrate the positives. And like you said, Danielle, I mean, at least for me, going from Smallville, aka North Dakota, to a true metro city like Milwaukee, it opened up so many opportunities. And when I really start to look at the positives, it helped me feel good about the change overall. So for you, Danielle, like, you've gone through a lot of different changes. We're going to be going through another change with Ezekiel graduating too here in a
Mhm.
couple of years. Our son is a junior in high school right now, so we have 2 more years of high school with him. Like, how can celebrating the positives of him being able to graduate help us work through that change?
Well, I think for him, it's just, celebrating him growing up and being able to now make adultish decisions of his own and, having his life to live and just being able to celebrate that with him, like to help him continue to reach his goals and what he wants to do. Um, Still is part of our life, but at the same time, then there's different opportunities for us and things that you may want to do or continue looking into doing. The opportunity to travel in the middle of October, if we want to travel in the middle of October. Um, there's just different things that opens up in our life as well, that we can start looking towards and helping eliminate that blow of him moving away.
It's a big deal for a lot of folks, especially like your firstborn or your kids start leaving the nest and you come empty nesters, and some people get all excited about it. And I don't know about you, Danielle, but I think our family's pretty cool. Like, I believe we actually enjoy spending time together. Like, it's something that I cherish, and sometimes like I'll have our forced family moments because I'm like, hey, okay, things are going so quickly. We gotta still be able to cherish each other, and whether that be dinner at the table and just having a conversation about what's happening in our lives for the week, or going on the boat, or going for a walk. It's not always so much the amount of time, but the quality of time that we get to spend with each other. So I think focusing on the positives is like, okay, instead of asking ourselves, I think you should do this to a degree. What can go wrong? But what if it all goes right? What if it all goes right? What can come of it? So that's another way to go ahead and work through change. And then I think, we talked about, already, be open to creating new relationships and opportunities, celebrating the positives, avoid the people who are constantly moaning, complaining, find out the facts, figuring out how much you control. And the final thing was think positive thoughts. And in the end, for myself working through change, I had to really change my internal language from how well do I handle change to how can I handle change successfully. Now, I'll say that one more time again. I had to go from how well do I handle change to how can I handle change successfully. Why is that an important shift in language, Danielle?
Well, I think it puts you in a more positive mindset in receiving the changes and the outcomes and the opportunities that are laying there for you, versus dreading it and, just how am I going to handle this? Like, what am I going to do? I think that allows the more negative thoughts to be allowed to creep in and take hold versus the opportunity side of it.
Yeah. All human progress is preceded by a question. And I learned this years ago that the answer is in the questions that you're asking. You know, I coach sports, and last night we were in a volleyball match. It was a tight volleyball match. And I'm not a fan of calling timeouts. I know some coaches would completely disagree with me, especially if another team's on a run with you. But part of me is like, I want to develop people, and I want them to know that what, as I think Norman Vincent Peale said in his book, I think it was him, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I remember there was that moment in the game where we were down, and the players looked at me, and because I called timeouts on our tournament last Friday, and it's not my normal mode of operation. I remember last Friday when one of my captains, I looked at her to see if we should call a timeout because I was feeling it, and she's like, "No." And then yesterday, they looked at me a few times if I was going to call timeout, and I'm like, "Not this time, not this time." And I literally told them, I'm like, "How can you guys work through this? Figure it out. You got to work through this because this won't be the first time you'll be down. It won't be the last time you'll be down. You got to figure it out." Well, in the story, we landed up winning the championship for this tournament. And I truly believe is that they figured out how to work through the tough times. And in life, we're going to always have tough times. There's always going to be those moments which we get challenged, our back against the wall, and we ask ourselves, how can we survive this? Well, remember, and I've shared this on past conversations, think about all the things that you've gone through in terms of change. And you're here listening to our conversation today. Our son is reading a book. What was it? He talked about the clothes. Do you remember the clothes thing he talked about, the closet? Well, I think it went like this. In the book, it talks about your favorite clothes. Where are they at in the closet? In the front of the closet or in the back of the closet? And he's like, and the answer is the front of the closet because that's where your good thoughts are at. And you have a choice in terms. Are you going to put the good thoughts in the back of the closet, in the back of the mind, or bring them to the front? And for me, I have to sometimes remember what I've gone through and not only survived, but succeeded from it when I'm facing new challenges and new changes moving forward. So that's some thoughts on if you're the reminder of your living change happens and how to work through it. As we go ahead and close up here, Danielle, what would you say are some final thoughts that you would like to share? Because you've gotten, like I said, you've experienced a lot of changes. Um, of how to work through it.
Well, I think the important thing is to remember is you're not always going to be positive initially, probably about the changes, but to take a day or two to like sit with the thoughts about the change. And then I think a lot of times what happens is when we can filter it through our own minds and our own thoughts and our own feelings and our own things that we've gone through, it makes it more adaptable to make it our change that we're making versus someone else forcing change upon us.
Can you give us a little bit more insight on what you just shared there in terms of making it our change versus someone else's change?
Well, a lot of times I think we are more resistant to people forcing change upon us or situations forcing change upon us, where when we can actually look at it and internalize it in through our own filter of our emotions and our thoughts and how it relates to us and the things that we can do, it makes it then an easier change for us to make when we own it and we embrace the change versus allowing it to be forced upon us.
Yeah, I like that. Sometimes you got to sit with the change a little bit and process it yourself and take a breather. I guess that's called a timeout, huh? Oh, well, no, again, hey, thank you all for watching us with another Rare Leader conversation. And, Rare stands for a leader who's resourceful, adaptable, resilient, and to engage. It's a simple acronym, and I think, when you're working through change, you can actually use those 4 words to deal with it. Am I being resourceful right now? In what ways can I be more adaptable? In what ways can I be more resilient? In what ways can I engage others to help work through the change? See, there's a madness. There's a
Mhm.
madness. There's a the madness. No, how's that phrase go again?
Method to your madness.
There's a method to our madness. There you
Mhm.
go. If you found value in today's conversation, please do share this with others. If you're not part of the Rare Leaders Facebook group, please make sure to go type in Rare Leaders, um, or type in rareleaders.com, and you'll get right to our Facebook page. You can ask to join us. Until next week, I'm Tony Jalen, joined by the wonderful,
Danielle Jalen.
hey, onward and upwards. Go out there and make a difference.